All right, welcome to Computational Combat. We're looking at mixed martial arts through the eyes of a betting algorithm. I'm Dylan Grayson, joined as always by the brains of the operation, Johnny Koppelman, and a man more likely to fight in the UFC this year than Khamzat Chimaev. It's Connor Potter. How's it going?
That's rough.
I ran through so many possibilities in my head of what you were going to say.
Yeah, COVID's serious. Take it serious. All right, moving on quickly to what we actually talk about with this show. Johnny, what's happening, man?
That's not my name. So I'm Johnny's twin brother. I replaced him because he offed himself because of how bad last week did. I'm much smarter. As you can see, I'm clean shaven. Last week did not do well. It didn't throw that much money because a lot of fights got canceled. I will preface it. However, we will be transparent. Of the money it threw, it lost 59%. It did throw like 30% less than it was supposed to, or 40% less than it was supposed to. Keep that in mind. And standout performances from no one.
Well, Pedro Munoz came through.
That's true. And also, you know who fought really well? What's his face fought really well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget. I don't even care. It lost.
Could you even pronounce it?
We had Moises and Munoz come through for us. Thiago Moises? Is that who you were thinking of?
No, I was thinking of what he took a round. He was like a 4-1 underdog. I forget who it was.
Beats me.
It doesn't even matter. It really doesn't matter. We lost.
All right. So looking to turn it around this week and looking to turn it around with one of the most interesting cards in a long time. If you ask me, I think this is the best card since COVID. Like since the empty arena shows started, this is the best thing they've done.
I don't think you could think of a more stacked card than this. Like, I don't even know since when. All the way up to the prelims.
They did 3 title fights back when Peter Yan won the title.
Yeah, but even up to the prelims are huge names.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that you can say about this card, you've got 3 title fights, 4 champions representing 5 weight classes. Absolutely nuts. There are 5 belts that are held by people in the top 3 fights.
Do we really count Amanda Nunes' second belt?
Well, the second belt is the one that's on the line, so I kind of have to. Because this isn't for the bantamweight title, it's for the featherweight title. We'll get into it. All right, starting from the bottom, we are looking at the early prelims. If I can figure out how to share my screen briefly. There we go. We are looking at Mario Bautista versus Trevin Jones at bantamweight. So opening bout for the night. This one is an interesting matchup. I really like this matchup to open the card. Mario Bautista is really, really solid. His only loss in the UFC was to Corey Sandhagen, and that's aged incredibly well. Trevin Jones, in his UFC debut, he won. That win was overturned due to weed, which, as I've said before, is bullshit and wouldn't even be the ruling at this point in time. I believe they've changed the rules about that. But looking at experience level and record and everything else, I'm going to take Mario Bautista. Connor?
Yeah, I mean, Batista's extremely aggressive, which is a good trait to have. Jones's fight, like, yeah, he knocked out Timur Valiev before getting popped for smoking to heifer. But at the same time, like, if I remember correctly, he got super fucked up in the first round. Like, there was like a body shot or something which dropped him to the floor, which is like not the best look that you want to have. Maybe, I mean, he does have really heavy hands. Maybe he can get something done, but I'm also going to take Batista in that.
So the algorithm would agree with both of you. It has Bautista as a 60% favorite. It just so happens that the book, at the time that these picks are played, have Bautista as a bigger favorite than we do, and found some value on Trevin Jones. So it is throwing, if you're throwing all of your money, let's say you have $100, you want to toss it all this weekend, then you would throw 7.6% of that on Trevin Jones. But if you're taking a long-term approach and you have a certain amount of money set aside for gambling or sports betting, whichever you prefer to call it, you throw 0.48% of that total fund on Trevin Jones. I also want to preface before we go through with the rest of this. So all these plays, whether it found value or it didn't, are based on the book's lines at the moment of this recording. So if it's Saturday, and there turned out to be value on one of these guys, we won't be able to tell you. So based off of the differences that we tell you in the models, you'd have to use that on your own for your own educated guesses if you want to. We're not saying you should.
Yeah, the money lines do shift quite a bit, but like how often are you seeing it where it'll shift after recording to the point where, oh, it's gonna bet on this guy it previously wasn't going to?
So pretty frequently, because lines are dramatic in the beginning and the books want to shift it towards the middle because that's where they make the most money. They take off the spread. That's a whole nother topic. But so depending on the fight, you'll see a lot of value pop up on the favorite as it gets closer to the fight. So where we might pick an underdog now, even if we have him as a model underdog, we might pick the favorite as it gets more or less dramatic.
All right, interesting to note. And moving on to the next fight, that would be at lightweight, Uros Medic versus Alan Cruz. Interesting fight here between two Contender Series alumni. This one, Medic has been getting a lot of attention for how he won his first Contender Series fight. Brutal knockout. He's a huge dude. He started off fighting at middleweight, and now he's fighting at lightweight. And he's big. Also, his nickname is the Doctor because his last name is spelled like medic.
Is that actually why his nickname is the Doctor?
Yeah, that is. But after he knocked out that guy in the Contender Series, he looked at the camera and jokingly said, "That's why they call me the Doctor. Bring in the nurse." And he points at just a man in a heap on the floor. Cruz got his UFC debut off of a Contender Series win last February, and he lost to prominent anti-Semitic jackass Spike Carlyle. Carlyle then lost 2 in a row and got cut from the UFC. So that doesn't make me particularly confident in Alan Cruz. I really like Uros Medic. Easy. Uros Medic, no problem.
Yeah, I agree on picking Medic. I don't necessarily know if I can draw anything from a 1:25 loss to a dude who's known for being nothing but extremely violent in the first round. Spike Carlyle lost 2 cents and got cut from the UFC, but also that doesn't mean he doesn't have insane amounts of power in the first round. So I don't know, but at the same time, I'm also going to take the dude who's probably the better kickboxer to win that fight.
Yeah, and
I don't have to try and announce either of those names.
Well, there is no call because Medic is making his debut, correct?
That's correct. I won't be trying to pronounce any of the names.
All right, moving on to the next bout, Lavinia Souza versus Amanda Lemos at strawweight. This is really the moment when I was looking through the card before this that I said, holy shit, this card is stacked. Not that these two names immediately jump off the page to me, but that we have a top 15 ranked fighter fighting this early on the early prelims. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you, oh man, this fight really gets me going. But we've got a ranked fighter as the third fight of the night. This is going to be happening at 7 p.m. Eastern time? That's incredible. It just shows that the card is stacked all the way through. As for these two, oh God, it's really, really tough to make a call here. Neither of these guys has a particularly impressive win, but neither has an embarrassing loss really either. I'm not even going to make a call, to be honest. I have nothing to say. Yeah, I mean, I can't look at the data and churn out an answer. I have to know these fighters enough. I don't know either of these two women well enough just to make a confident call.
I tend to agree. Lavina Souza, because it's Portuguese, right? Yeah. I mean, they're both pretty good. This is one where I would not make a confident pick whatsoever, but I think I would also probably take Livia Souza, Livinha, I guess, as Topology is calling her. I think she's a slightly more promising prospect. She's had some wins that I think are more impressive in the UFC.
So the model agrees with Connor, which turns out, I went through the podcast, that's not a good thing. When the model and Connor agree, it's usually trouble.
I think that just means that I'm real shit at picking fights,
or that Dylan's really good, because every time Dylan goes against it, recently Dylan's been in a hot streak. But besides that, it agrees. So Sad has Souza as a 57 essentially a 58% favorite, and the book has her as a 200 plus 200 underdog. So we found a good amount of value on her. If you're throwing all your money, you're going to put 15.1% of your throw on Souza. And if you have a fund set aside, you're going to only bet 0.96% of your fund on her. And there's a lot of fights. We're betting on 13 or so fights. So the amount we're throwing on each fight is going to be lower than it is in the past, but that's just because there's more.
All right. So moving on to the next one. At welterweight, Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews. Researching for this fight, something I didn't know beforehand that now I am very aware of. Jake Matthews has been in the UFC for a long, long time, and he debuted at either 19 or 20 years old. Oh, God, that makes me feel weird. But both of these guys have looked really good in their UFC careers. Jake Matthews has wins over Li Jingliang and Emil Mech. Those stand out to me as more impressive than anything on Brady's record, but that's not Brady's fault because Brady's undefeated. He's beaten everyone he's been given. He just hasn't been given that tough of a test yet. I'm going to take Matthews just because the strength of competition has been higher. He's been in the UFC for longer, and I've never seen Brady go up against the competition that Matthews has faced and beaten.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of the people that Sean Brady has been beating, he's beating by decision. Jake Matthews and his most recent win, his real claim to fame, I guess, is breakout performance. I don't know. Would you consider like beating Ismail Nardiev to be more impressive than beating Christian Aguilera? Like either way,
Aguilera.
You're probably not going to choke out Jake Matthews unless you're Rocco Martin, which was kind of a wild fight in and of itself. Jake Matthews has, like you said, been in the UFC forever, been consistently improving more or less. I don't know how much more he has to improve. Like, holy shit, he's still only 26.
Right? That's what he's been in the UFC for a while, and he debuted either 15 or 20
like 30 or something. Either way, I don't really think that you're necessarily going to submit him, and over 15 minutes, I don't necessarily know that you're going to outwork him. Like, Jake Matthews is good. He's consistent, if nothing else.
So thankfully, the algorithm disagrees with Connor. It's picking Tom Brady. Oh, I meant Sean Brady. Like that. I'm trying to be Dylan over here. But the book also agrees with the algorithm, so it didn't find too much value here. If you're throwing everything, you're going to throw 1.5% of your total throw on Brady, which is the smallest play or tie for the smallest play of the night. And if you have a fund set aside, you're going to throw 0.1% on him.
Yeah, that is 0.1 flat. Is that, I think that's the smallest throw in history of the podcast.
It is, but this is also the most fights we've pretty much ever bet on in one card. So like the max throw of the night is 0.96, and that's not even that much. That's like on a normal night, that's not a huge throw. It's just we're betting on so many.
That makes sense. I get it. All right, moving on to the next one, and this one's fun to talk about because it's weird as hell. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Carlos Ulberg at light heavyweight. So there's a lot weird that's going on here. First things first, this is the first time that Kennedy Nzechukwu is fighting in the UFC that I won't be there live in the audience. I happen to be there in person for both of his UFC fights, which goes to show you he's been out of action for a while. That being said, he's also a super lanky, weird Slender Man dude. I don't like the way he fights in general. Not that he's like terrible, but he's not great. When he fought Paul Bearju Craig, Bearju literally like sliced open both of his knees, just shooting for takedowns over and over and over and over again. And he just kept doing it because Nzechukwu wasn't exactly like deterring it in the slightest. And then guess how that fight ended? Paul Craig by triangle choke.
My boy.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. And then the second fight that he had, I remember I had brought with me some friends that were like, I don't even want to say casual fans. At this point, they were just like, yeah, I'll go see some fights because that sounds like a fun thing to do. And I was trying to explain what was going on. And I was explaining about Nzechukwu and how he fights weird. And then we really didn't get to see like a crazy amount of that because we were all laughing so hard because he got kicked in the dick like 4 times by Darko Stosic. Like over and over and over again. It was really, really bad. So I have no idea what to say about Kennedy Nzechukwu. Then on the other hand, you have Carlos Ulberg, who is from City Kickboxing, which is that incredible team from New Zealand, and we'll talk about them 2 more times tonight. They're an awesome team. They're starting to kind of rule the MMA world, if you ask me, and their coach is an absolute badass. I love Eugene Berriman. And one of the smartest things I saw on UFC Embedded earlier this week, he had his fighters at the airport. They had just landed in Las Vegas, and he said, look, we're not officially on lockdown with the UFC until Tuesday, but you're all on lockdown right now because we're not risking this. We've got 3 fighters on the card. So I really like that, and I really like the way he trains his guys. Carlos Ulberg's an interesting one because, Connor, what's Carlos Ulberg's record? Don't even Google it, because he's either 1-0, 3-0, or 5-0, depending on who you ask. ESPN has him at 5-0. He's 3-0 on Tapology, and if you look on the UFC website, he's just 1-0. Regardless, he's a pretty good kickboxer, coming off of a good win on the Contender Series. But I have no idea how many fights this guy has had, and it's really tough for me to gauge anything about him because of that.
At least according to Tapology, the 3 of those fights were kickboxing bouts.
Nope, add that up. That's 6. I don't know where ESPN got it from. I have no idea.
I go by Tapology always.
Yeah, regardless, he has very little experience no matter what it is. Good win on the Contender Series, good kickboxer from a very good team, fighting a very weird fighter, but I don't know how to call this. I'm going to go with Ulberg because he looks more skilled to me, but he has very little experience.
Yeah, I'm also going to agree with that. There's the possibility that like gigantic athletic super freak at light heavyweight is going to be able to make the difference. But they're actually, yeah, I mean, he's gotten, Nzechukwu has an inch of height and 6 inches of reach on him, which is absurd. The dude, he's 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. Damn. Almost John Jones proportions. But I'm going to take Ulberg as well. Like you said, I mean, he has kickboxing experience, if not MMA experience, and Eugene Berriman is an excellent coach when it comes to like striking, and particularly when it comes to feinting. And at least based off the finish that he got on the Contender Series, he was incredibly calm and collected in the pocket. And I trust that if push comes to shove, he can replicate that kind of a performance.
And there should be no call here because Ulberg is debuting in the UFC.
Right.
All right, moving on. The last fight on the early prelims. And, shared the wrong screen there for a moment.
What are you watching? We all saw that.
Well, that was a later fight. Where are you, Tim Elliott? There you are. Are you
I
guys
can talk
seeing
about
Tim
this while you're
Elliott?
getting that up if you want.
I have no idea what you guys are seeing.
We see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
My boy Timmy.
right, flyweight bout. The number 12th ranked flyweight in the world, Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinosa. Flyweights need more respect. Just in general, they need to be fighting higher on the card. They're really fun to watch, and ranked flyweight fights tend to be absolute bangers. That being said, I think Elliott's way better than his record would suggest, and Jordan Espinosa got submitted by Matt Schnell. That's not like a bad thing. Matt Schnell's kind of good, but Tim Elliott is going to be able to work his grappling as well as Matt Schnell is, if you ask me. I'm going to keep it simple, go for Tim Elliott.
Dude, I don't know. I think two things. One, I think this is a make it or break it fight for Tim Elliott. Like, yeah, he won his last fight against Ryan Benoit, he says Benoit actually, I think, which is annoying and dumb and bad.
You can call him Bidet.
If I remember correctly, Ryan Benoit's also a huge asshole. But right before that win, he was down 3 straight, including two losses by finish. I think he's kind of got to win this one.
Look at who those 3 were.
I mean, yeah, there's no. I don't know. The thing is, like, not only is he coming off not only is he 1-3 in his last 4, but he's looked significantly slower and less put together in recent performances. Like, I don't know. I think the big question for me in this fight is not how good is Jordan Espinosa, but how much has Tim Elliott declined? Because if he's anywhere near what he used to be, which I don't think he is, then it's pretty easy for me to call that, right? Like, if you look at Jordan Espinosa's record, his one win is over Mark De La Rosa, who's okay. He's not the world's best fighter. He's not the world's worst fighter. But he's got losses to people like Dvorak, Schnell, and Perez. I think I'll also take Tim Elliott, but I'm not confident in that pick in the slightest.
So the algorithm picks Tim Elliott as a 62% favorite. The books have Tim Elliott as an underdog, so we caught some value here. If you're tossing all your money, or you want to throw all of a certain amount, you're going to be throwing 15.1% of that on Tim Elliott. Or if you got the long-term fund like myself, you're going to be throwing 0.96% on Tim Elliott. There's a couple other fights at this denomination as well, and this is the most you're going to be throwing.
All right, so the algorithm much more confident than either Connor or myself, which is always interesting and scary. All right, moving on, we have another flyweight matchup here, and you are not seeing that incorrectly. They are both ranked at number 8. I did verify this. Rogerio Bontorin versus Kai Kara France.
Why does it say 0-0-0?
Yeah.
You know, the UFC's website sometimes isn't the greatest. I can tell you off the top of my head that Kai Kara France has fought at least once. I'm not sure what his record is off the top of my head, but yeah, I did notice that as I was sharing my screen. That's pulled straight from the UFC website. Blame them. So this fight, another fun flyweight bout, if you ask me. Kai Kara France's 2 most recent losses were to Brandon Royval and Brandon Moreno. Both of those have aged pretty well. Bontorin's most recent loss was to Ray Borg. That, to me, isn't that good. You know, comparatively, I would rather be the guy who's lost twice to 2 very good contenders versus having lost once to a guy that's kind of fading away. Once again, we've got City Kickboxing being represented here with Kai Kara France. I really like him. I'm going to take Kai Kara France.
I don't know. Kai Kara France has been kind of pretty inconsistent recently. Like, he starts off a lot of his fights really well and then just kind of seems to lose track of things as they go on. He had that one fucking crazy fight with Brandon Royval. That was absolutely insane. Where he got dropped with a spinning elbow immediately after dropping Brandon Royval and then got guillotined. Fucking bonkers. I think I'm also going to take Kai Kara France, though, just because, like, the people that he's been beating are at least comparable, and he has a lot more experience in the UFC. That being said, if you look at the people they've both mutually fought, Bontorin has a win over Raulian Paiva via doctor stoppage. And if I remember correctly, I did not think that Kai Kara France won that fight against Raulian Paiva at all. If I remember correctly, I thought it was a pretty clear robbery. But also, that was a long time ago, and MMA math is broken anyway. So I'm going to take Kara France, but it wouldn't surprise me if it goes the other way.
So the model has this as the closest fight of the night, and it has Kai Kara France as the favorite, as a 50.24% favorite. Yeah. The books have Kai Kara France as a favorite as well, and you can imagine any bit of a favorite it has is definitely over what we have. So we found some value on
Rogerio Bontorin.
Bontorin.
Is it Rogerio or Rogerio?
You know, that's a great question. If he's from Brazil, it's Rogerio.
He's from Brazil.
It's Rogerio.
I'm gonna say Rogerio. So yeah, so we found some value in Rogerio. If you're throwing everything, you're gonna throw 3% of your total toss on Rogerio, and if you're doing a set-aside fund, you're going to throw 0.19% on Rogerio. I also personally like Kai Kara France because I'm a fan of City Kickboxing.
All right, well, we are not done talking about them. All right, moving on to the next fight. This fight is a half number 1 contender spot, if you ask me. Joseph Benavidez, the number 2 ranked flyweight in the world, versus Bullet Askarov, the number 3 ranked flyweight in the world. Yeah, what happens here is the winner will face the winner of Figueiredo versus Moreno 2, so long as that winner is Askarov, because Joseph Benavidez is not getting another shot. This is one of those situations where I'm going to say something that sounds like I'm trying to be an asshole, but I'm not. Joseph Benavidez doesn't lose when the title's not on the line, but he always loses when the title's on the line. And that's not me being like...
What an asshole.
I mean...
That was nice, if anything, because you're giving him credit.
Right, but it almost sounds like I'm like, ha ha, like it's almost become a meme that like, oh, Joe Benavidez can never win the title. But I think what that says is that he's been consistently the second best flyweight in the world for years and years and years and years. And I don't think he is anymore, not because I've seen him decline, but because I've watched his skull get bashed in by Davison Figueiredo twice now. It was scary the first time, and it was downright horrifying the second time. That image of him getting choked out, essentially he'd really been basically knocked out
TKO.
before the choke was sunk in, and then the choke was locked in, and his back was completely arched, and when he woke up from unconsciousness, he just started screaming. It was horrifying. I don't think Joseph Benavidez comes off of two devastating losses to the champion like that and is going to be the same. So Askar Askarov is very, very good, but I'm basing this entirely on the fact that I think Joseph Benavidez will not be the same fighter that we saw before the Figueiredo fights. I'm taking Askar Askarov.
So I think the thing for me is I'm going to need to see Joseph Benavidez lose a non-title fight besides the Sergio Pettis one. But like, I'm going to need to see him lose a non-title fight before I start saying that I think he's not the second best flyweight in the world anymore. I mean, even now, his losses are Dominic Cruz twice, Mighty Mouse twice, Sergio Pettis for that weird fluky dookie, and then Davison Figueiredo, the current flyweight champion, twice. The dude is the second best in the world, and it sucks that that's the case, but I need to see him prove that that's no longer the case before I'm willing to say that I don't think he's going to continue winning. Askar Askarov is a good fighter, but I don't think he's going to be able to out-wrestle or certainly out-scramble Joseph Benavidez. I don't know if there's a fighter who's better at scrambling than Joey B. When it comes to striking, Joey B's striking is not the greatest, but I trust him to start getting the wrestling together and just make it work. Also, a hilarious note is that Tapology has Joseph Benavidez's nickname as the Beefcake, and that is not true at all.
That's fun.
So the algorithm disagrees with Connors, and it agrees with Dylan, so you know it's correct. It picked Askar Askarov as a 53% favorite. However,
close.
Yeah, it is close, and we didn't catch value on either side. So this is one of those things where, like, as you know, it comes closer to the fight, you'll see the two lines move closer. So you might catch value, if anyone, on our picked favorite and the book's favorite, which is Askar Askarov. So I mean, you be the judge if you want to. You don't have to use advice, but we have him as a 53% favorite. No play.
What are the odds that we're working with right now?
Right now, the odds we're working with Askar Askarov is. I can come back to you on that if you don't want to wait, or you can wait 5 seconds.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Quality audio content, people.
So Askar Askarov right now is currently a minus 125. If you want to convert what we have him as a minus 115.
That's
so.
Really
I mean, you could pay attention, and if you might catch value on that. If you want to use ours, you don't have to. Maybe you shouldn't after these past 3 weeks. Who knows?
All right, moving on to the next one at bantamweight. We've got Song Yadong versus Kyler Phillips. Weird fight, if you ask me. I think that Song Yadong is way better than anyone Kyler Phillips has ever faced. I don't know like how Kyler Phillips is fighting Song Yadong here. I get that Song Yadong's most recent win and previous draw were both kind of controversial to an extent, but I still feel like he's just going to be a step above Phillips. I think this is too much too quickly for Kyler Phillips. I'm taking Song Yadong.
Yeah, I have literally nothing else to add except that I think Song Yadong is one of the best prospects in the UFC right now. The dude's fucking on fire. Like, he is how old? He is 23. He is actually younger than I am younger than we are. Me,
the two of us. Johnny's a year younger.
Yeah, so he might be older than you, but either way, if you look at the people that he's beaten, he has a majority draw against Cody Stamann, and he has wins over Marlon Vera and Alejandro Perez, which is fucking crazy for a dude that's 23. Like, he is the future looks so good for him, and he trains at Team Alpha Male and like is already improving on his wrestling. Song Yadong.
Connor really likes Yadong.
What can I say? I like watching him bust all over shit.
Hey, so does the algorithm. The algorithm has your dong as the 55% favorite. It just so happens that the books like your dong even more than your potential girlfriend might. So we found value on Kyler Phillips. Not too much, but if you're throwing everything, you'll toss 1.5% of that on Kyler, which I hate that name. And if you have a fund that's set aside, you'll put 0.1% on Kyler. It just reminds me, I don't know if you guys watched Beavis and Butthead, but the dude had like killer on his forehead and Beavis thought it said Kyler. And they're saying that the whole time. And ever since then, the name's just been, I just hated it.
All right, well, that's the hard-hitting analysis that you guys come to this show for. Shitting on somebody's name, something that was not chosen by them. Fuck you, Kyler Phillips. Your name sucks.
Suck.
All right, moving
So
on to the final prelim. And boy, is it a fucking banger. Bantamweight here. Dominic Cruz, the 11th ranked bantamweight in the world, which feels very weird to say, against Casey Kenney. Holy shit. The fact that Dominic Cruz is on the prelims just goes to show you how absolutely fucking phenomenal this card is. God damn, I love this card. This is a great card. It's wonderful. Cruz being number 11 feels weird, but also he fights very, very rarely and is coming off of 2 losses. Now, those 2 losses were both in back-to-back title fights when he lost the title and then when he tried to regain it. And those were both years apart. And this is the quickest turnaround that Cruz has had in a long time. Cruz also, his last non-title fight before this, 2014, for reference, which is absolutely insane. You know, this is a really interesting bout because Casey Kenney is very good. He's a good prospect. He's beaten everyone besides Merab Dvalishvili, and there's no shame in that. Merab Dvalishvili is a beast. But Casey Kenney likes to implement his wrestling game, and I just don't think he can do that against somebody like Dominic Cruz. The footwork is too good. And Dominic Cruz, losing by knockout to Henry Cejudo doesn't really concern me as much as a guy like Joseph Benavidez getting knocked out twice in a row, because Dominic Cruz isn't the type of guy that needs to engage in these firefights and put himself at risk to win fights. He's going to be dancing around the cage. And, we've seen him have those ACL tears and come back from them, but this is the only time he's really coming into a fight in like the last decade without a serious injury preceding it. So I don't think he's going to be hampered there at all either. I'm going to take Dominic Cruz here, and I don't think he's going to have a hard time, despite the fact that Casey Kenney is very good.
So there's two things running through my mind. The first is, how does 3 rounds versus 5 rounds affect Dominic Cruz? Because he is, and I don't mean this to denigrate him, because I actually really love watching Cruz fight, but he's a point fighter, right? He wins by decision unless you're Takeya Mizugaki or you're an opponent from, when was the last finish before that? He had a doctor stoppage in 2010. Yeah, but like, if you only have 3 rounds to work with, you can only bank 1 round really before you need to win. Does Dominic Cruz get affected by that? Casey Kenney is very comfortable putting on a slightly higher pace. He's very comfortable just throwing more to just make more connections. Does that wear on Dominic Cruz, who is a 5-round fighter? Fundamentally, he's really good at pacing himself. The second thing is Casey Kenney in the Nathaniel Wood fight showed really good body kicks and really good leg kicks as well. And something that TJ Dillashaw did that gave Dominic Cruz worlds of trouble in the 5th round was just a ton of kicking in the legs and a ton of focusing on the legs rather than headhunting. So does it add up over 3 rounds? Does it matter? Has Cruz fallen enough that, or has his style simply not changed enough that like, shit, I don't know, right? The question is like, how good is Casey Kenney? How much has Dominic Cruz fallen? How much has the meta caught up to him? I have no fucking clue. Like, my head says Dominic Cruz should win that, but like my gut tells me that's just not, that's not going to work. But I'm gonna pick Dominic Cruz because I want to make a pick.
So the algorithm agrees with the both of you. It has Dominic Cruz as a 60% favorite. The books have Dominic Cruz as an underdog.
Oh,
I don't know if that's shocking to you or it isn't, but it is the case. And if you're tossing everything, you're throwing 7.6% on Cruz. And if you got the fund money set aside, you're tossing 0.48% of your fund on Cruz. I just want to say that I like Connor's gut here, prefaced with the fact that Dominic Cruz is my favorite announcer, or favorite analyst / announcer. Like, I love when he calls fights, is what I'm
Really?
trying to say. Yeah, out of anyone, I like him the best. I like his
wow.
technical breakdowns. I think he stays pretty unbiased, so I really like him.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I think
Have you
What
ever
was that
listened
about Keith
to commentate on a
Peterson?
Jeremy Stevens fight?
I really like Dominic Cruz, but I do think that he's the meta's caught up with him. I don't think his like awkward fucking feet
Footwork.
movements gonna footwork. Yeah, I don't think that's like a thing anymore. Like, if he beat TJ Dillashaw with it, and then the new age comes in, like I just don't see him winning. I just don't see him winning. I think Casey Kenny's gonna take it. A 29-year-old stallion. He'll come in. He'll be something.
See, the thing is, I feel like very quickly we'll figure out while watching the fight, like, oh shit, the algorithm got this wrong. If it did, I feel like that's going to establish itself early. However, Cruz as an underdog feels like it's worth throwing some money on because if he's still as good as he used to be,
Oh, I
then
agree
he
with
does
you.
not deserve to be the underdog.
Yeah, see, whether the algorithm thought he was a favorite or not, let's just talk about logic here. I think you leverage the fact that he's an underdog on the books because he might just be an underdog because the fight game is extremely, short-sighted. It's like, oh, he lost his last two, he sucks now. So, and that could be affecting why he's so heavy as an underdog. So I agree with you on that logic as well.
All right, and we are moving on to the main card here, light heavyweight. Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic, number 2 versus number 4. Another really, really interesting fight. I just tried to X out the X that was in a screenshot. That was not actually there for me to click. That's lovely. I think that this fight should be very exciting. You've got two guys that 2 years ago looked relatively unstoppable. Now both have received recent losses. However, Alexander Rakic's loss to Volkan Ozdemir was not a genuine loss. If you look at the way that people scored that, most of the MMA media scored that for Rakic. So is he like, obviously he lost, but did he really? On the other hand, you've got Thiago Santos, who, in my opinion, beat John Jones, but that's more questionable than Dominic Reyes. However, after that, he hasn't looked good. I don't know. It's not like there's a lot of shame in losing to Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira is the number 1 ranked contender in this division. I feel like Santos is going to be wild, and that's going to hurt him against Rakic. I think he's going to pay. However, I could see myself eating my words because his nickname, Maheta, means hammer. It's there for a reason. Dude hits like a fucking hammer. So, yeah. I mean, I'm taking Rakic, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was dead wrong.
Dylan, what rank did you say each of them was?
Santos is number 2 and Rakic is number 4.
Okay. 4 is a bigger number than 2, so I'm gonna go with Rakic.
I'm so glad that the algorithm and Connor disagree. The algorithm has Santos as a 59% favorite. The book has him as an underdog. A pretty fat underdog. We caught a lot of value here. If you're throwing everything, you're throwing 15.1% of that toss on Santos. And if you have the money set aside, you're throwing 0.96% on Santos. Let me just say, I don't think he looked bad against Glover. I think he looked really good. Glover just could take a punch. Dude, in the beginning of that fight, Santos landed every punch Santos landed knocks anyone else out. Like, that was fucking absurd. I remember watching that fight thinking that at any second Glover was going to go out, and Glover took those strikes and honestly, just that says a lot about him. So I'm looking forward to this fight.
Yeah, to
Okay,
to actually give a more serious pick, I am going to be taking Rakic, but it's more because I think he's consistently shown that he can beat really good competition. If you score it for Ozdemir, otherwise you can say that he can take it to a split decision with someone that I view as really good. Anthony Smith, who's like, Anthony Smith, but whatever. But like, he's got acceptable wins, and he has a skill set that's really coming together. The leg kicks that he showed against Anthony Smith were fucking nasty. The head kick against Jimmy Manuwa, disgusting. And Thiago is going to be 37 at the time of the fight. Like, he's coming off of double ACL surgeries. I don't know how much longer he has it. And does he have absolute fuck you power? Yes, of course. But I'm going to take the younger up-and-comer who also has good wins.
Yeah, I was so thrown off by your 4 is a bigger number than 2 that I completely, I just shut up and didn't insert that Verdict has Rakic by decision as the most common pick. And I did actually look, despite it being a preliminary bout, they do have Cruz versus Kenney up there as well. And Dominic Cruz by decision is the most common pick in the world for that fight.
Yeah, everyone likes Cruz.
That makes sense to me. All right, moving on to the last non-title fight of the night, because this card is amazing. At lightweight, Islam Makhachev, number 14, versus Drew Dober, number 15. So, based on Connor's previous logic, no, I'm kidding. This is a really fun fight. I've said that over and over again tonight because this card is full of fun fights. This is an excellent card. I'm extremely excited. There's some interesting stuff going on here. I think Drew Dober is good. I think Islam Makhachev is great. But looking at Islam Makhachev's record, he hasn't really faced all that crazy competition. Like, I'm actually surprised at how not incredible his competition has been, considering how much hype is around him. He's also been super inactive. I believe last year he got the mumps. Like, legitimately, he was out of a fight because of the mumps, which is just weird shit. I do feel like Islam Makhachev should get the win here, and I feel like he deserves a top 10 opponent next, but I don't know. Am I buying into hype that is a little bit overblown? I don't think so. I'm taking Makhachev.
Oh, it's a good fight. It's a really good fight. Drew Dober has really started coming together in terms of his Muay Thai and just connecting every piece of his game together. Especially, I mean, he fucked up Hernandez super badly. He had a massive upset versus Nasrat Haqparast. Like, the dude has really showed. Like, if you look, his record is he is 6-1 in his last 7, and that one is Beneil Dariush, and there is no shame in losing to Beneil Dariush. Long back Benny's fucking legit. On the other side, I actually think wins over Davi Hamosh and Arman Saryukin are fucking excellent wins. Especially with how good Arman has looked since then and how good he looked in the fight. I'm going to take Islam because Drew Dober has consistently shown that he struggles with being taken down. And if you struggle with being taken down, someone like Islam Makhachev is going to put the work on you. The one person to beat Islam Makhachev, beat him by knockout. Maybe there's something there. Maybe Drew Dober's incredibly heavy hands will make the difference. But if you struggle with getting taken down, especially like if you rock Alexander Hernandez and then he takes you down, I don't trust you to not get taken down by Makhachev.
Yeah, it's worth saying Verdict has Makhachev by decision as the most common pick, and the most common pick by a long shot. 45% of people have it for Makhachev by decision, and the next most common picks are Makhachev by finish in some form.
Yeah, so the algorithm agrees with all 3 of you. It has Islam Makhachev as a 70% favorite. The books, whether it be hype or whatever speculation, has Makhachev as an even fatter favorite. So much so that we cut value on Drew Dober. I personally don't like this play, but that's because I'm an Islam fan. I love the man. So, but if you're throwing all your money, you're putting 3% on Drew Dober, and if you have a fund set aside, you're going to toss 0.19% on Dober. I do think it is worth to add, to back up what Connor was saying, the Davy Ramos win was more impressive than a lot of Drew Dober's wins in his previous 7 fights. Just internally, our momentum score, Davy Ramos coming to that fight on a 4-fight win streak against some decent names, pretty low names, but he was still on a 4-fight win streak. It was a pretty.
Can you pronounce the name?
Davy Ramos. What is it? Davy Ramos?
It's Davi Hamosh.
Bro, I'm just reading English. I don't know. There's no vowels here. It's not like I'm reading Hebrew and there's little vowels that tell me
Oh
what
my
to do.
god! I mean, there are vowels in the name. At least in the
No, I
last
mean,
name, the
is there
A
with the
and an O.
vowels that tell you how to do the
I know. I don't
I
know
don't know
how
if
many
that's
of
a
our
shin or a
listeners-
sin. I didn't know if that was a shin or a sin.
I don't know how many of our listeners are going to be familiar with the writing system in Hebrew, but regardless, it's just fun to listen to you mispronounce things.
But I agree with I forget which one of you said it, that if you have a tough time being taken down, it's gonna be a long night. I think Islam's gonna do the Dagestani fucking sit on your legs and pummel you kind of vibe.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, this fight will at least tell us if all of the hype that everybody else at American Kickboxing Academy has been giving to Islam is merited. Because we've been hearing, how long has Islam been in the UFC? Let's see.
He's been in the UFC since
He's been in the UFC since 2015. It'll be nice to hear as to whether or not he's actually as good as everybody says he is, considering the level of competition that he's fought.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Moving on to the first of 3 title fights. Oh boy. Bantamweight title. The champion, No Mercy, Peter Yan, facing the number 1 contender, and in my estimation, bias noted, the real champion, Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling. So yeah, I'm extremely biased towards Aljamain Sterling. I'll just say it. In the before times, I did train at Serra Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Of course I wear this, and I'm letting you know, I'm gonna probably wash my clothes quickly because I'm wearing this again on Saturday night. I always wear this when a Saralonga boy fights. As dorky as that is, I don't care. Aljamain Sterling's also the only UFC fighter I've personally met and had a conversation with that's like an active fighter. He's a really nice, humble, and down-to-earth guy that has absolutely nothing to do with this matchup, but it does explain why I am so completely, entirely biased towards him. That being said, I think that even my bias being put aside, he's the real champion here, because when the UFC had the option to make a bantamweight title fight after Cejudo retired and vacated, their options were Corey Sandhagen, the number 4, versus the number 2 in Aljamain Sterling, versus Peter Yan, who was the number 3 at the time, against the number 6 Jose Aldo, who hadn't actually had a win at bantamweight. Yeah, I know Aldo probably actually beat Moraes, but he didn't actually on the record books. So you got the number 2 versus the number 4, or the number 3 versus the number 6. And I get it, Jose Aldo's a legend. So you're going to give that title fight to Yan versus Aldo. But realistically, it was Sandhagen versus Sterling that was the title fight, and Aljamain Sterling choked out Corey Sandhagen in a minute and 30, and then Corey Sandhagen has gone on to knock out 2 incredible fighters back-to-back afterwards, that win just aging better and better and better. That being said, even though Peter Yan is a paper champ in my book, that doesn't mean he doesn't have the skill to be the champion. He's seriously good. He's got terrifying knockout power. But I think that Aljamain Sterling is going to excel at a distance. He's very long and lanky for the division, and he manages his distance very well. His striking has gotten very crisp. And I think that Aljamain Sterling is also going to excel getting in close enough to start grappling exchanges. I know Peter Yan has some good judo throws, which really come from Sambo, but I think Aljamain Sterling is going to be able to implement that game plan. Where it gets sketchy for Aljo is in the pocket and in the clinch. If you're just going to stand in front of him, or if he's going to get a hand on you while you're standing, that's where Peter Yan is most dangerous. But if you look at the level of competition they faced, if you look at the level of competition they faced in their recent UFC careers, and if you look at the fights that they had leading into this one, Aljamain Sterling has fought better competition. He is, in my estimation, the real champion, and I will not pick against him.
Simp. I'm gonna take Peter Yan. I'm disagreeing with you. I'm sorry, man. I love Aljamain Sterling. He's one of my favorite fighters.
There's this cool feature on Zoom where I can just mute anyone that I don't want talking when I run the Zoom call.
That freaked me out. I did not see that. I thought I just fast forward in real life.
No, I did that. Sorry, Connor, I had to.
No, that's okay. I like Aljo. He's one of the only people that's at Serra Longo that I actually think is interesting. Besides you, Dylan, don't worry.
Not currently anyway. Something coronavirus.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think it would not surprise me if Aljamain Sterling won this fight. Like Dylan, I think he should have been fighting for the belt. Like Dylan, I think that Corey Sandhagen is a better win for like a title fight than a win over Jose Aldo. That being said, Peter Yan is incredible at building over 5 rounds. His first rounds are a little bit slow, so maybe there's something for Aljo in there, but he builds very, very quickly. Is Dylan just leaving while I'm going to be talking about Aljo losing?
I think his cat's getting pissed off too.
The cat wanted in, so I had to open the door.
Yeah, so I mean, he builds very, very consistently. He's really good at picking up on things as the fight goes on. He's never really been out wrestled. Like, you have to go all the way back to his fights against Magomedov.
Magomedov.
Yeah.
Do you need me to help you?
Yeah, Davey Ramos. You have to go all the way back to his pre-UFC career before you find someone who's really able to scramble with him. He's really good at getting up. He's really good at not going down in the first place too. So not to mention the fact that his clinch is fucking nasty, dropping people like Uriah Faber with brutal elbows. And so I'm going to take Yan because I think the other thing for me is that Aljamain Sterling, in his fight with Pedro Munoz, which is the fight that he had immediately before the Corey Sandhagen fight, he put on a hellacious pace and he was fucking exhausted by the end of it. If he can't keep up that pace for 5 rounds, the championship rounds are going to be fucking miserable for him. I'm going to take Yan. I'm rooting for Sterling. I love that dude, but I think Yan has just shown that his style will work against him.
Dylan, you must be ecstatic because the algorithm agrees with Connor. This is only bad news. I promise you that. It believes Peter Yan will win. And by the way, I know Peter Yan, but isn't it Pewter, or was I wrong when I heard that?
Okay, so it's spelled in English Petr. However, Russian doesn't use the same alphabet as English, so I've heard it pronounced Piotr. I've heard it pronounced.
Oh, that's what I heard, Piotr. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
I'll just go with Peter because it's simple. So Peter Yan is a 58% favorite.
Because it's English.
The books have it split. They have them both as like -110 or something like that. So we caught the exact amount of value you would expect. It's a 7.6% throw if you're tossing everything. And if you have money set aside, it's 0.48%. I do want to say though that looking at their resumes, Aljamain Sterling's is more impressive in my opinion, like by far. Especially in the past 6. It's just more impressive.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think Uriah Faber is a good win, like at all. I think Uriah Faber had his time, but I think in 2019, I don't think beating the 40-year-old Uriah Faber is better than beating Pedro Munoz.
The name itself is not impressive, but the way he went about winning it.
Yes. We learned some skills about him. I just really think the Sandhagen win, like, aged really well. Cody Stamen, Jimmy Rivera, they have some similar wins, some overlap, but besides that, I really like Sterling's resume.
All right, so fuck your shitty algorithm. I hate it. Anyway, moving on to the real most anticipated fight on this card. I can't even say it. The UFC Women's Featherweight title. The champion, Amanda Nunes, defends against Megan Anderson.
Let's just skip this one.
Okay, look, guys, I know we can all like just shit on this, but if you look back to Anderson's knockout win over Norma Dumont, like that's really got to like get in your head and be like, holy shit, who's Norma Dumont? Like, come on. This belt was made for Chris Cyborg. When Amanda Nunes beat Chris Cyborg, the division should have died. Amanda Nunes has a whole other belt in a whole other division with actual worthy challengers. Megan Anderson has a win over Kat Zingano because her toenail got caught in Zingano's eyelid. She doesn't actually beat people. Megan Anderson is, Invicta level good. Like, she's former Invicta champion. She's very tall. She's very rangy. And it doesn't matter because Amanda Nunes has beaten tall and rangy people that are way, way, way better than Megan Anderson. There is not a single way that this fight goes where I see Anderson winning unless there's another fucking toenail to the eyelid. Like, really.
How much hot sauce you putting on that?
I mean, how much hot sauce am I
Like
putting
that.
on?
I like that.
Uh,
Put your money where your mouth is.
I do have a
Literally.
little mini bottle of the Last Dab in my fridge as well. If Megan Anderson wins, I'm not gonna do a fucking spoonful. I'm not an idiot, but I will take some Last Dab on the show next week if Megan Anderson beats Amanda Nunes.
No, you will do it. You will do it right after, so that all the energy's there. Your friends are shitting on you. Just record it on your phone. You taking it.
Look,
and do some updates.
I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think I could take Last Dab after Aljo loses, God forbid. If Aljo doesn't win and then Anderson beats Nunes and I have to take the Last Dab, I think I might not survive till next week's show. So I will do it on next week's show if Anderson wins. And I will give the same caveat I gave previously, unless she wins by disqualification.
That's fair.
Like, that does not count. If Amanda Nunes somehow fucks up and gets herself disqualified, I'm not doing any Last Dab. That says nothing about my ability to predict a fight. If she actually loses, though, which she won't.
By the way, wait, before you continue, last fight, what did Verdict pick?
Oh, shit. You are right. Verdict.
Well, he's looking that up. I don't mind talking.
Yeah, true.
I have it right here. I do.
Go for it.
Verdict's also a bunch of fucking idiots because they picked Peter Yan by decision. So, Verdict users, you suck. I hate you. Sorry, Connor. Go ahead.
I'm literally not going to waste as many words as you did on this fight. Amanda Nunes has 2 belts. That's more than none. Slightly more words.
More complex than MMA math.
I don't know where Amanda Nunes could possibly lose this fight. All she has to do is wrestle, and Megan Anderson's not a good wrestler. Maybe her legs are long enough that she'll catch her in a triangle. Maybe she'll catch an up kick, but she ain't doing else on the ground, and Amanda Nunes could easily knock her the fuck out standing.
Yeah, the algorithm agrees. It has Amanda Nunes as a 75% favorite. That's pretty fucking heavy. It's the heaviest one on this card. Yeah, the book agrees with you. And okay, I'm going to preface this. I've never done this. Do not listen to this value play. It is stupid. In the long run, this won't hit because it is very rare that someone at a 25% chance, we don't bet on them enough for this to pay off in the long run. But I'm going to go through with it. So if you are betting all your money, you're going to toss 7.6% in the trash can. And if you have a fund set aside, you'd be putting 0.48% of that in the trash can. I think this fight's a wash. It'll be fun to watch Nunes back in there, but that's it.
You know what's interesting? I've just been posting, all of the picks as the algorithm spits them out on the Verdict. So now I'm going to have some fucking troll be like, you're picking Megan Anderson? Like, what kind of idiot are you? And it's like,
hey, listen, when they want to see the portfolio down the line and they see how much, I'm up, they'll shut up. You know what I mean?
Right. And the thing is, we've been down the last few weeks, right, as we start actually promoting ourselves better on Instagram and TikTok because, God hates us. But like, if you look at the algorithm over time, it's done very well. And I think the time to reevaluate whether this is working is if we ever get to the point where the algorithm starts heading back towards like zero profit, which is it's nowhere near that. So
exactly.
All right. Now the actual fight that this card is built around.
You don't even have to say what Verdict says for that last fight. I don't even want. No, don't even say it. It's so obvious. You don't even have to say it. Verdict disagrees,
but it is by decision. Nunes by decision is the most pick, which I disagree with. She's gonna knock.
Wow, Verdict's really. Those users really trying to be safe and just pick by decision because they don't want to pick around.
Yeah,
they gotta fix that.
Moving on to the main event, light heavyweight title on the line. The light heavyweight champion Jan Blachowicz versus the middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. Oh boy, this is a fun fight. It's the main event, 2 champions fighting, and we've got our last time to talk about City Kickboxing because, once again, City Kickboxing representing Israel Adesanya. He's 20-0 in MMA. He's overall in combat sports 106. That's 100-6, not like 106 and then something else. So, I mean, just this fight in general is really, really fun. I think that Israel Adesanya is going to take it, and I think it's because Israel Adesanya is going to be too slick to get hit by Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz has shown serious power recently, but I mean, Israel Adesanya has fought heavy-handed guys before, And I just don't see Israel Adesanya getting hit with that big one by Jan Blachowicz. I think he'll be able to style on him. I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya. I love him. I love this fight. Fuck it. 2 belts for Izzy.
So I also am going to be picking Izzy. The two things that have me really uncertain are, one, Jan's going to be so much bigger than him in the cage. Like Izzy today was saying, like, oh, I might just come in at like 193 or something.
I saw that. Yeah.
Jan cuts a decent amount of weight. If he comes in even at like 220, that's almost 30 pounds heavier. Like, if he decides to put on an aggressive grappling game plan, that's bad news. You can't give up 30 pounds like that. Izzy's got great takedown defense, but I don't think great takedown defense is going to be enough to compensate if he's just getting fucking slammed with like a brick shit house of Polish power. And then the second thing is that Jan out of nowhere just decided to start hitting really fucking hard.
And the kicks too. The kicks are beautiful.
Oh, those kicks are disgusting.
That leg reach is going to be something.
No, I mean Izzy's bigger than him. He's
Yeah,
got
but the
200
leg reaches, both guys are gonna be able to reach each other with their legs. It doesn't matter how slick Izzy is with his head. Those legs can connect.
Give me 1 second. I think that is on the UFC's page, the leg reach.
I don't trust the UFC height and weight measure, or I don't trust the UFC height and reach measurements. I don't trust their leg reach measurements.
Well,
leg reach is a very new thing. I don't really know how they get it.
Yeah, but either way, like Izzy's going to be the better striker. City Kickboxing and Izzy in particular are really good at feinting out their opponents. Jan bites pretty hard on feints. Maybe the fact that he's just so much bigger and he's going to be the more powerful guy will make the difference, but I'm going to bet on the faster, better kickboxer. And also, I just fucking love Izzy. He's one of, like, it took me, I think, 2 fights to fall onto the hype train, but I'm all in on the hype train now.
Yeah.
Let me tell you
It's
something.
not even a hype train anymore. The
Wait. Continue. What did verdict say?
Verdict agrees with both of us. The most common pick in the world is Izzy by decision, followed by Izzy by knockout in the second, in the third, and then Jan by knockout in the second is the third most common pick. But
so I want to preface this. I want to give my own opinion too before I give the algo, because I'm a huge Adesanya fan. I mean, he represents the weeb community, baby. He represents the weeb community, and I definitely am a weeb. That's another reason I like him. I hate to say this. The algorithm gives Jan Blachowicz the edge. I don't fucking understand it. Whatever, who cares? 53% chance Jan Blachowicz wins, it thinks. So it thinks it's a pretty close fight. Obviously, Blachowicz is a fucking underdog in the books. So it is tossing 15.1% if you're throwing everything. And if you're just tossing, or you just have a fun set aside, 0.96% on Blachowicz. I just want to say with Adesanya, I just think is also too elusive. His head and body movement, like, I feel like is disgusting. He has a great ability to torque his body while evading. It's like hitting while moving backwards. It's one of the craziest things you can do because it's really hard to get power while doing that. But he's very good at using the guy's own momentum to meet his fist while using his torque while also avoiding a punch. You've seen it with Robert Whittaker. You've seen it with Paul Costa. I think Blachowicz might get excited. Maybe he hits Izzy once, gets excited, lunges in, and I really see Izzy, finishing him off. Maybe Izzy gets hit a couple times, but I really see Izzy just be the slicker man.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Israel Adesanya kickboxed at 205 pounds. He also kickboxed and boxed at heavyweight at some points. And in his entire martial arts career, he's only ever lost by knockout once. It was in kickboxing to Alex Pereira, who is the greatest light heavyweight kickboxer there is. So if you, I don't think Jan's going to knock him out.
Me neither. I also think that, if you want my official opinion, I think Izzy wins by TKO, but I think he knocks down Blachowicz with a kick. A spinning heel kick, something. I think a kick's going to land to the face, put Blachowicz down. Whether Izzy walks off or hits him a couple times first, I don't know, but I think that's how it goes.
See, that's very specific, but I remember a phone call between the two of us ahead of the Paulo Costa fight where you said, quote, I could see Israel Adesanya finishing off Paulo Costa with the exact same combination he knocked out Robert Whittaker with. And then he did exactly that. So I don't know. Maybe look for that. Maybe that's your secret weeb power. You can tune into Israel Adesanya's brain and see what he's going to do.
Yeah. That's what I do.
All right. an excellent card all around. This is going to be an absolute blast. If you're usually a guy that only tunes in for the main card for UFC fights, stop doing that. Tune in for the prelims. This is one worth sitting down for a long time and just, grab some wings, grab yourself a nice beverage,
Some Poirier hot
craft
sauce.
beer if you're you, Connor, a soda if you're me, and just enjoy the ride. This is going to be a good one.
And some whiskey if you're me, some Japanese Suntory whiskey.
Wow, real weeb shit. All right. And with that, we'll see you guys next week.